Bingo.
That's how we're starting this video. Bingo.
Yep.
Mine doesn't actually say on air. There we
Now
go.
we're
Now
live.
it does. Hi guys, welcome back. This is my channel. Although I'm going to be confusing because the person hosting it is not really me, but it is my channel, I promise. And today we have Views with Verse back, which is where we talk about what deity means to us. So I have Mr. Joey and Mira from the Random Witch to talk about the Nordic god Loki.
Am I not good enough for an introduction?
No, you're Mr. Joey. I thought you might want to do it yourself.
I'm Mr. Joey.
Yeah, Mr.
King
Joey.
Asbjorn Bute Torval.
You could do that
As
better.
always.
No, come on. Put some effort in.
That was effort.
Torval. More
It's
than
more
that.
effort than anyone usually gets.
Give him the razzmatazz.
That's the story of our lives. Joey gets more effort than most people. So hi and welcome back to Miss Random. If you didn't know, I was on her channel last week and we had a chat about spirituality in general. But this week we're going to talk about deity specifically. So welcome back. Looking lovely. It's really interesting because Mira's color-coded to her hair and her lips, and I'm color-coded to my hair and my lips, and Asbjorn's letting the side down.
Can't help it. I like to be different.
We should have put you some nice blonde lipstick on or something. I don't know. Nice and bright.
No, I'm good. I think I'm white enough.
You're not white enough.
I said I think I'm white enough.
Okay. So how I normally start these Views with Verse is that I ask people what deity means to them. And so I'm going to ask Mira first, and then I'm going to ask Asbjorn. So what does deity mean to you? How would you define your relationship with deity?
Oh, it is an ever-evolving, ever-changing relationship. I started having... I'll give you a really brief outlier of the entirety of my life with deity. Beginning of life, didn't understand deity. Childhood, I just knew Mother Earth and Father Sky in the Native American traditions. Mm-hmm. And then in my teen years, I went searching for deity. I went searching for as many deities and as much deity as I could handle. And I even went to Christianity for a spell, a very small, compact spell.
And moving on.
Yeah, and then, it didn't mesh. To each his own. And then I found paganism and I was home. And then I thought, I don't want to deal with deity at all for a good few years. I'd say, I was like, I had a bad experience in some of the previous thing that I mentioned. And then I was like, no deity for me. I'm good, y'all. I'm just an elemental witch. What ups? And then I found Hecate, who became my surrogate mother and decided to kick my ass, literally and figuratively and spiritually and mundanely, all over the place, and completely destroyed my life to remake it better. Mm-hmm. Shortly after I found, well, I guess he's always been there, but Loki. And our relationship has been exciting, to say the least. Mm-hmm. But my views as of right now about deity is that I'm not sure completely what deity truly is. I think in my human brain, the one that I can try to comprehend, is that they're either actual separate beings, and each one has their own history and personality and all of that, or in the same, the opposite face of the coin, I also believe could be completely true, is that there's one source and there are many facets of that source, and the ones that can connect with you the most, like it shows you that facet of itself so that you can learn.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe right now. I believe two things at the same time. I believe that they're totally separate, but they could also be one facet of a source of many facets of source, I guess. I don't know. Did that make sense? I hope it did.
I mean, it does to me, because I go with fluxy thinking anyway, which is that just because things are seemingly opposite doesn't mean that they can't exist within the same thing, especially with something as broad as deity. Do you want to jump in here, Mr. Asbjorn?
I mean, there's a lot to cover with that one question. I would say that, first of all, it's semantics. It's another word that we like to categorize things the same way that we categorize everything else. The same reason why we stereotype people in certain groups. It's another label. It's another coin to something that we deem to fit a certain category. So it's semantics. But behind the name, what most would coin being an entity, or deity rather, is just simply another entity that you work with. My thoughts specifically on that is that they're overrated. I think that people rely too much on these seemingly outside things and not enough on relying on themselves. I think that to quote from the Bible from a completely different perspective here, I will worship no other God before me. I am the God in that situation. That is the perspective that I take. And so when working with any entity, I come first. I rely on myself first and then something else. Now, there are benefits, of course, to working with things that are outside of ourselves, but that is the thing. I would say that there are as much psychological aspects of the self, of our psyche, of our subconscious, that we surface to work with, that we attribute to external things.
Do you think, because I knew what was coming, so I was waiting for him to say it, do you think that's a Lokian perspective? Do you think that that is typical of people who are influenced and affected by the Nordic god Loki, who clearly emphasizes the role of the individual and chaos over the role of the collective?
I would say no. It's definitely not the typical perspective. Most people who work with Loki have the exact opposite perspective. People who typically work with Loki blame him for everything. And you look at the heathen community as a whole, 99% of them will say the same thing. Loki, you little shit, etc. They like to put all this stuff off on this other entity or deity rather, instead of taking responsibility for it themselves. Because what people forget is while gods and entities and deities can cause you problems, typically that's because you've gone to them in the first place. And so you have to take responsibility and say, okay, if I work with something that is outside of myself or a specific archetype, there are going to be risks. And we're not willing to accept that we are responsible for taking those risks.
What do you think, Mira?
Oh, no, I completely fucking agree with him in the biggest sense. I made a horrible mistake one time. Oh, it was bad, and I don't recommend it. I went to a deity when I was just a young idiot and asked to be broken so that I could help other broken people. And then I was fucking broken, like in the biggest sense of the word. Like, I asked for it and I got it. I was stupid. Like, that's the worst. Ooh, I don't recommend it at all. And then you have to realize the blame lies with me completely. That's what I asked for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also agree that fucking Loki gets a bad fucking rap. Like, all across the board. And to me, he's definitely not the enemy. And he's definitely not the person that comes to... He's just... I haven't found out exactly who he is, because I don't think he ever wants to be known for exactly who he truly is. I think
biggest
that's
thing that I've taken
a
away.
part of him.
The biggest thing I've taken away from working with Loki is that people go and work with Loki and shit goes wrong, and then they tell themselves they're never going to work with Loki. That is the point. You're not meant to rely on Loki for anything, because things go wrong when you rely on others. And the whole point of being free is to be able to be 100% self-reliant on yourself. That doesn't mean you can't obviously bathe in the help of other people, but it's taking responsibility and reliance upon yourself than it is before anything else. And that's the thing with Loki, is that as much as he's a little shit, he takes responsibility for it. And people who come to him knowing the risks, is it worth having someone who's at a huge risk and huge probability it's going to fuck up? Or is it better to wait and learn yourself and do it through your own means? And so I've often found that the lesson is that you shouldn't work with Loki. You shouldn't rely on Loki. You should learn to rely on yourself.
I'd say a couple of things. So for Mira's point, I've asked both these guys to come talk to me about Loki today, because I've only worked with Loki a very small bit in sort of two ways. One, in when I was creating items with him, and he was quite involved in a very particular way, which is what Mira talked about, which is he didn't want to be known. But he did want to be known, but he didn't want to be known. And I was like, what are we doing? And he was like, we're going to go round and round in circles until you figure out what I want. And I was like, fine, I can do that. And so when I'm creating energies for gods or goddesses, I create an energetic temple. So I go into like a meditative state, and I'll have a visual aesthetic of what the temple looks like for each god. And Loki was fire and shadow, and everything would move. So it was like, oh, you think you know what you're getting, and move. And you think you know what you're getting, and move. And you think you know what... And it was all about perspective. It was all about playing with expectation. It was all about talking in riddles. And he was like, when is the fool not the fool? And I was like, this is how we're starting this, is it? And he was like, yep. And I was like, right, okay. And then talking about what Asbjorn was talking about is kind of like self-reliance, which is something that I've been talking about a lot lately, which is rejecting the idea of conforming to a set way of practicing, a set way of thinking, a set way of presenting oneself, a set way of like considering deity and spirituality. And I think Loki lends himself to that energy really well, because he doesn't want to fit in anywhere. He doesn't want you to fit in anywhere, and he will turn things on their head just to see what you do. And I'm going to ask Asbjorn about the fallout from his Loki ritual, which is one of the first things that I ever saw.
Yeah, okay. I'll fill up an hour of this live stream. So what about it? Just about it in general?
So this is one of the first things that connected me and Asbjorn, is the ritual for Loki and Freya. And so I'm going to ask you about the fallout since that ritual. What was that ritual for, and what happened, and how did Loki influence your life following it?
Well, before we jump into that, Loki's definitely with us, because I have made a bit of a mistake with the live stream. Okay. You've had two events, and I've clicked on the wrong one. So we are Paranormal Investigation, Ghosts, Spirits, and Death, live with Chris Asbjorn and Jen Hodgson.
Can you change the name?
Yes, at the end.
Oh, no.
It's cool. It's nothing that can't be fixed once we finish and we can edit it. It's fine.
Hi, Loki.
Also, your mic is very, very quiet on everyone else's end, but I don't think there's anything we can do about it. So speak very, very loud. Okay. Shout at the camera. So my ritual with Loki...
I'll get close.
Because I've done several with Loki, but I know the one that you're referencing. Mm-hmm. But let's go before that. Before I started, I did that ritual. I did a few different rituals with Loki that led up to that big one. And it was during the time that I was pulling away from Thor, working more with Odin. But Odin and Thor was a completely different context. Thor and Loki were always kind of my poles. And I was at one end very, very strong with Thor, and then it started to fade. And over time, that I pulled away further and further and further and started to feel more drawn to Loki. Just with my own personality and my attitude and the way that I do things is much more like Loki than it has been Thor. And I've said that almost since the beginning. Even my history is very Loki in nature when I look at it. And so I did a few rituals with Loki that weren't anything big. It wasn't anything that chaotic. And it wasn't even asking for anything or trying to manifest anything. It was mainly just evocation for communication. But it got to a point where things in my life were just going downhill. That's the only way to say it. My life was starting to fall apart. And, well, who do you call in times of chaos? More chaos. And I've always thrived in chaos, even though it's a pain in the ass. But I planned on doing a ritual in the Apache Death Cave in Two Guns, which is near Sedona. Not Sedona. It's near Flagstaff in Arizona, where there was like something between 42 and 48 Apache warriors were burned alive in this cave by the Navajo. And I'd done rituals in this cave previously, but I wanted to go to that cave to do a ritual. And I planned for it a couple of weeks. And I remember one of my friends at the time telling me that they had a dream about me. And I was in a cave, but I was Loki. And I was bound. There was venom dripping on the face, etc. And I was Loki in that situation. And I never really thought much of it until the day that I went to that cave. That I realized that shit, maybe that dream does have some kind of significance. And I went there with the circle that's behind me was the same one that was used in that ritual, as well as the same fur. I went into this Apache Death Cave with all my equipment and all the stuff that I needed. And I had one of the most intense ritual experiences that I've had to date. And it wasn't intense because it was overcomplicated. It wasn't intense because of how much immersion was in it. It was intense because feeling pain physically during a ritual is usually a distraction, but this was part of the immersion. I went into my ritual circle, and my mind just went into a completely different place. I was in a cave, bound, shaking, with the venom dripping on the face, exactly as that dream had happened. The only difference is that there was no Angrboda to hold the basin. The venom was just simply dripping. Continually. And I remember feeling that chronic pain physically during that ritual. And then coming out of it, being out of breath. And it's not particularly cold in that cave, especially when you have a fuck ton of candles lit. But I was freezing cold. It was unbearable how cold that cave got very quickly. And yeah, that I never really understood the intensity of that ritual and the impact it was going to have until after I had done it. Because the domino effect of rituals is something that's always fascinated me. You do one ritual, for example, my Eye of Odin ritual, which has still continued to affect me today. That was done over a year ago. And this one was very similar. It had this domino effect that continued to plunge my life into even deeper chaos, but for a reason. And this is the lesson this is the greatest lesson that I've ever been taught in magic, let alone from Loki, is that chaos is necessary for growth. You cannot grow, evolve, or ascend without chaos. Chaos is necessary for change. And myself and Ia Quetting have had conversations about this, about war being partially necessary for progression. In as much as a lot of people will disagree, look how far technology advances when there is a war, because as war progresses, so does science. And this is the same with conflict. The more conflict that there is, the more chaos that there is, the more growth that happens. And so this is why you'll find that the people who have the greatest magic have typically gone through the greatest shit, who go through so much that it forces them to either adapt and survive or die. And that is the lesson, is that survival and adaptation is necessary. You have to throw yourself into chaos and let it mold you into something more. And this is why we say things like you're only as good as your last mistake, because a mistake is a form of chaos. And it's in that you learn new things. You don't go anywhere by sitting still and relaxing. You have to be plunged into chaos that forces you to learn new things and grow.
Mm-hmm. And when he's being romantic, he says that this brought him his agroboda.
Yes.
That would be me. Okay. How about you, Random? How do you feel that engaging with Loki and chaos and things of that nature have influenced your life? With things that you're comfortable talking about, obviously, because it is a personal thing.
Oh, yeah, completely. Well, firstly, I'll have to disagree or agree to disagree with Mr. Torval about you shouldn't work with Loki and he doesn't really want you to work with him. That's not been my experience.
Oh no, that's not what I'm saying. Just to clarify, what I'm saying is that Loki does not want you to rely on him. The lesson is that if you rely on Loki, things are going to go bad. You have to rely on yourself first. It's taking responsibility. See, people who rely on Loki to get things done don't rely on themselves to do it. That's where I was going with that.
So you mean there should be a relationship, not just basically vending
machines. Give.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Then I will agree with you there. I definitely have had some experiences where, see, as a energy manipulator in which I myself try not to rely on my god and goddess for pretty much anything I can do my damn self. If I can do it, I need to do it. They're not my mom and dad. They're not here to hold my hand and walk me across the street. I have to go there. So I agree with you there. But I have relied on Loki in a very few and far between instances. And I feel as though, even though he's definitely a very independent person, or not person, but God, and he enjoys independent people, weirdly enough, he is quite the manifester. In my experience, he is a powerful manifester. There was a few times in my life where I had to do some things that were not on the up and up, and they were kind of morally, ambiguous. In the gray, I would say. And I went to Loki about it, and it was basically, I have to make somebody believe something that wasn't true. And if I didn't, bad things would happen. And I went to him, and this has happened a few times, not many. And because I've experienced Loki lie to me, bold-faced, and teach me a lesson through that. So I thought, who better to go to make somebody believe a lie? Who better? He completely negated the action. I didn't have to do it. As soon as I went to him, almost immediately, I didn't have to say that lie. I didn't have to make somebody believe me. It just was finished. The situation was obliterated. Because I feel like my relationship with Loki is a lot of admiration, respect, and worship. I will admit, I do worship Loki. Mainly for his traits and his cunning and his just, him. And weirdly enough, he took what I thought was going to happen and turned it completely around. It was just like, you thought it was going to end like this, boom, it ends differently. And he's done that so many times with me. So I get what you're saying about, Joey, your experiences about he doesn't want you to know who he truly is. Because that's a part of him. That's a part of the chaos. If he knew what he truly was, he'd have to be that forever.
Yeah, it's sort of, anti-shapeshifter energy in that.
Yeah, and that's just
you're pinned into a box.
It's not him.
Yeah, it becomes almost kind of irrelevant. It becomes kind of like, it's kind of against the quest for understanding. It's kind of like the deeper sense of self, because as witches or whatever you want to term yourself, magicians, spiritual practitioners, whatever, I think the minute that you stop seeking is the minute that your spirituality dies a death. And it's that constant reevaluating, that constant growth, that constant it is chaos in its own way, and that kind of churning cycle of life that we keep growing, we keep learning, we keep adapting. And Loki is a dark god, because I found this with dark gods and dark goddesses, for lack of a better term, because I hate the term, do this perhaps more than any other deity, and they're like challenging us all the time to be better, to think better, to really evaluate what it is that we think we know, and then to turn it on its head. And I think there's an interesting thing that happens with these gods that Asbjorn's already touched on, and that is the nature of pain, as well as the nature of perhaps morality, like you said, with regards to being put in a situation with dark gods where there is no clear victory path, if you like. So it's kind of like reevaluating what it is you think you understand in order to get the lesson out of it.
Yeah, Loki's tricks often are a lesson to me that I need to learn. And I very much, to touch back on to what Asbjorn said before about when you come to Loki, he's going to fuck some shit up for you. And that's a lesson. Me, I love that. Weirdly enough, I know that sounds masochistic, but give me tricks. Make fun of me. Laugh in my face. Show me something new. Show me something about myself that I thought was high shit. And now I realize, oops, nope, not as king shit as I was before. And now I realize that's something I need to work the fuck on. You know what I mean? Like, I have come to enjoy and admire and truly almost want the trickery. Mainly because, number one, I love the energy. I can't help it. I'm a chaos queen. I fucking love chaos. It changes so many things. And I'm a Sagittarius, so I love change. Like, I am fucking transformation. Like, that's my shit. Like, I love it so much. And sometimes I hate it, but it's so needed. And then I'm just like, you're right. I was wrong. Let's go. Well, like, yeah, you're right. It's time to change. It's time to let this shit go. And that, yes, yeah. It has been a whole path, because I've been working with Loki for 4 years now, and our relationship keeps changing and changing and then changing again. And now there's been a huge transformation in my relationship with Loki, because I did my first channeling recently. And it was a huge step for me, because I was so afraid of possession for the longest time, all my life almost, because I'm a medium. I was born a medium. I've been around spirits all my life and have had deep-seated fear of possession for as long as I can remember. And when I realized that Loki was, imagine it like my fear is the boundary that I set for myself, an imagined boundary, right? And Loki's just standing on the other side, being like, are you coming? Is this happening? I'm waiting. We got to do this, because otherwise we can't keep going. And I'm just like, no, I'm good. I'm good right here. For the longest time, I'd say like for a few months, I was like, I told you I can't cross this line. And he was just he didn't budge. He was like, this is our next step. You either take it or you stay there, and I'm not all about the you staying there. You know what I mean?
I'd be interested to know, like,
And
and if you know anything that's too personal, just if you felt any particular overarching emotions, because I know, Asbjorn, you did possession as part of that Loki ritual in the Death Cave, right?
Oh, I do possession every time I do evocation. Yeah.
And pain was your overarching feeling in that particular.
No, actually, pain was the most dominant. It wasn't the most. It wasn't. It was the most dominant in terms of intensity.
Okay, so what was the most
But
overarching?
overall, the overarching was loneliness.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to go give him a hug after this. Okay.
My what I can remember, because it was such an intense thing for me, and it was my first channeling. Our friend Chris held space for me. I was at her house and she held a safe space for me because it was me dealing with a huge shadow, basically, and kind of having to sit in that shadow for a while. Weirdly, from what I can remember, because it was quite intense, there was so much transformation and shifting. Like, in my mind, I was trying to comprehend, and I just realized, you ain't gonna comprehend it. You ain't gonna understand what's happening, because it felt so inhuman. Like, there was no shape. There just was. You know what I mean? It was like, it was just so inhuman, is what I can explain to you. I remember laughing, and it wasn't me laughing. I remember laughing. I remember looking at fire and being amused. And then being amused at, I would say, probably me. The feeling of being amused towards myself, that I was still trying to comprehend something that was incomprehensible. You know what I mean? It felt a lot like, okay, this is going to sound weird, but go with me. Have you ever tried to teach a child and the child is like, he's getting it, but he's also not getting it, and he's like, you see the child trying, and it's kind of like cute to you, like, oh, this is amusing and this is kind of cute. He'll get it. He's going to get it. It's all right. He's going to get it. You know what I mean? Like, let him try. And you kind of feel that amusement, and it's just like, that's the closest thing I could say to it. Like, that closest, like, it's really cute to see this little 4-year-old trying to, like, hammer a nail, and just keep missing. And it's just like, oh, how cute. You're so cute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it kind of felt like.
Okay. I mean, obviously, I haven't channeled Loki, but I can talk a little bit about channeling Morrigan as just for a point of reference for everybody who's with us, and I will ask Asbjorn in a minute if we've had any questions. So the last time I channeled Morrigan, I was angry, and I had a really quite intense few images of Morrigan, and it was all to do with it was all very gothic. There were very long needle claws, there was blood down my arms, and my eyes were changing color between black and white, but it was supposed to be like crow sight, so it was like I was a crow and I was seeing through the eyes of the crow, and I wasn't a crow, all in one thing. And then she got involved and she was like, oh, you think you're angry? This is what fucking anger feels like this is what real rage feels like. And I was like, ugh. And she was like, so chill the fuck out. And it's not often Morrigan will tell you to chill the fuck out. I'm telling you. She was like, it's not worth it, chill the fuck out. So I was like, okay, ground, center, get back to ourselves, get pissed about things that actually matter and not stuff that doesn't. And so it's a dark god thing to kind of be like, oh, you think you know what you're talking about? Well, you don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, master of the questions. Do we have some questions at all?
We've actually got no questions.
We got comments? Quid pro quos?
Most of them are just people saying hello to each other.
Oh. Okay, cool.
Okay, so if there's one thing I will say about my channeling, it was the entire day. I did it on the solar eclipse, and the entire day was full of tricks. Like, I woke up, and not to be like, this is embarrassing, but he thinks it's fucking hilarious. I woke up nearly shitting myself in bed. Like, that's how it started. He thinks it's so fucking funny. He was like laughing his ass off because he was like, you thought you were gonna wake up normal? Oh. It was kind of like that in my face, and I was just like, what the fuck? He was like, bet you didn't expect that. I mean, I was pushed to my limits for a lot of things. I am not a calm person. I have a lot of anxiety, especially when it comes to travel. And I had to get on a turnpike, which I've absolutely never ridden on before. And there's huge semis everywhere. And I'm totally afraid of these things because I've nearly been crashed into by a few of them quite a bit in my life. And I'm just like, these things are death traps. And I'm in between so many. Why? And then not only did I have to do that, I also had to be on that road for like another hour past what I was supposed to because I missed my exit. Not only did he traverse me into places where I didn't want to go, he kept me there for a lot longer than I ever wanted to be. And I was just like, I understand what you're doing, and I get it. You're teaching me that this is not a fucking big deal and to grow the fuck up. I don't like it, but I appreciate the teaching, the learning, the lesson. But why? I know why, but god damn it, why? I mean, there was a lot of facing a lot of fears that day and being, my expectations turn on their head. Because I kind of expected a little pain and fear to go along with that channeling. I kind of expected it because it was a fear of mine. So I thought he was going to make me feel a lot of fear during it. And that would be the challenge. But that wasn't the challenge. The channel was me realizing that I can fucking do this and to just get over it and just accept that part of myself. And it didn't have to be muddied with fear and pain and awfulness. It just is, and to just get the fuck over it. Which was a weird lesson, and I didn't expect it. But I got a cool souvenir. I don't know if you can see it.
You scratch.
It's like a little X. I was doing a bloodletting for this thing. I was doing a blood sacrifice as like a little, here you go. And I was supposed to have a very small hypodermic needle and just poke my finger a few times. And he was like, nope, tricked you again. And I had a huge needle and I had to actually scratch myself to get a cut. And he was like, one line's not enough, fam. You're going to have to do two and make it pretty. So I made a little X on my hand and he was like, you've been marked. Hooray.
Well,
in my head.
Gifu as well, isn't it? Like Gibu or Gifu, the rune.
It's like,
the X.
Yeah, it's a little X.
Yeah. So that would be gift in your Nordic runes.
So he gave me that, and ever since then, it's been fun dealing with opening myself like that, because I had shut myself off for so long. He actually challenged me the other day when you had brought up talking to me about this. I don't let spirits in my car because I don't. It's a wreck type situation that I don't want. And a spirit came into my vehicle, and I was like, "You not allowed in here. What you doing? Y'all know not to come in here. I deal with you when I'm not in the car." And it was just sitting there, and it looked totally different than what I'm used to. Usually when I see spirits, I see them as they were when they were living. And this spirit came to me as like a murdered, like almost like a victim that had been murdered and like was drowned in mud. And it looked like just a mud caked man. And it was like stringy hair, like mud all over the face and body. And it was like, I've seen spirits in their death form before, but like not lately. That hasn't happened to me lately. So I was like, oh, okay, well, this is different. And then it was starting to come near me as if it was going to try to inhabit me. And I was like, I didn't feel fear because I was like, okay, this is a thing now and we have to work with it, but not right now. I'm not afraid, but still, I'm good. You can't. And that was a fear. One of my fears was as soon as I opened myself to Loki, all other spirits would be able to bounce right in. That was a fear of mine. And when I was like, nope. And then I was like, you're going to just tell me what you want instead of inhabiting me. Then the spirit just smiled and was like, so now, like basically in a feeling almost was like, do you realize what you just did? And now that you're good, he turned into Loki. He was like, I told you it wouldn't be a problem. I told you. Just be okay with what you can do now. It was a weird thing.
Do you want to jump in, Astian? Do you have any more?
Just like for everyone watching, Joy's mic's having trouble, so that's why some of you can't hear her.
I am so quiet. I'm sorry. I'll get back up in your faces.
Yeah. What we might have to do is just do another video on this and like another one after this one. Like on another date, all three of us and do it again when the mics are fixed.
This is Loki.
I can hear Joey.
Well, a lot of people in the comments are saying that they can barely hear.
Oh.
So I mean, I'm not saying we can't do this one. I'm just saying we can do another one against like on the same topic or a similar topic.
Maybe we could talk about dark deities in general.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because I have a feeling that all of us have quite the relationships with them.
Oh yeah, we can talk like underworld gods and goddesses for sure.
Can I ask a few questions since there's no real questions in the chat?
Sure.
Okay. So for you both, you've talked about chaos and how it's needed. And my question to you is, in the very beginning of your guys' relationship to maybe not Loki in general, because since Joey hasn't had as much experience with Loki as you have, Asbjorn, what about chaos? Your beginning relationship with chaos and understanding chaos, what was that like for you? And I guess you could tie it into Loki since that is our topic, but like, was it a hard road at the beginning, or did
just
you
in terms of like
come
the
to
relationship?
understand? Yeah, did you come to understand it? Was it like a fucking fight? Was it, what was it like?
The great thing with me, wow, look at that ego coming out straight away. I was obnoxious. the great thing about me is that I've been in this chaos for so long. I've been dealing with chaos and magic for years. Is that I've be- I've come to a point where it's now an acquired taste. Most people, when they hit chaos, shut down under pressure. A lot of people look instantly to get out of it. Me, I'm the opposite. I tend to, when things get chaotic, it festers and it infects other things in my life and it completely blows out. And that's the point. Is that typically when it happens, the majority of people are looking in the moment and in the moment only. And so they're looking at what's going wrong in and of itself. But the more you get used to it and the more you embrace it, you can start to look at the chaos and go, okay, why? Why is this happening now? What is this leading me to? And this is for a few different reasons. One, the way that reality works, when you focus on something, it comes towards you. So let's say that I want to get a new car that's much more expensive than I can afford right now. There's going to have to be a change in my income in order for that to happen. So I might lose a job in order to get a better job that's then going to pay for that car that I want. See, people look at the losing the job and forget about the rest. But what they've done is they've manifested the necessity for that. They just can't see it. And that is the problem with most practitioners of magic. One thing goes wrong and they forget all about what they were going for. They're only focused on fixing the chaos, not moving past it. I've been doing this for so long that I see shit coming into my life and I embrace it with open arms. I let it do its thing and I see where it is going. What am I focusing on? What have I done to draw this to me? Whether it's another person, it's an event, or it's something else, there is something to learn from it. It is going somewhere. Chaos doesn't just happen for the sake of happening. It's leading somewhere, whether it's just to learn a simple lesson or to manifest something greater. Chaos happens because you're deliberately obstructing your own order. When you're focusing on something you don't have, you're breaking the natural order that you have in that moment to get there. So in the beginning of a relationship, I mean, there was chaos before even going into that. And I think we both knew that it was only going to get worse. It was only going to get heightened. But we embrace the totality of that for growth as a whole. And I think, in all honesty, it's because of that chaos that we're doing this live stream with both of us in the same roof, just in different rooms.
It's an illusion. Two screens. So, I have this love-hate thing with chaos. On the one hand, I really don't like rigid structure. If you're thinking like Emperor card, rigid structure, everything has to be 9 till 5, I die in those conditions. This is why I went for the job that I have, if you want to call it a job, being on YouTube, making spiritual items, doing all of it this way, because this rigid structure thing.
No.
And I'm like the most chaotic, messy Virgo that I know. Like I work, like my workspace is chaos, but I know
She ain't
where
kidding.
everything is. And I can't work it like, if everything's structured and things like that, then I get really antsy and agitated, and I don't like it. I feel like it stifles my creativity if there's not enough chaos in. But then on the other side of it, I do get a bit Virgo-y with change, like big life change, and I'm like, oh, I don't like it. Oh, I'm just gonna hide down here. Unless I know it's completely and utterly worth it. And I will say that the major life change that I had where I came to be under this roof was influenced by Loki in some respects, because there's a number of occasions where the synchronicities led back to Loki. And the first one is the ritual that Asbjorn's talking about, because when he did that ritual, the next day is the first dream I had about him. So the synchronicities aligned there. And as people may or may not know, before Asbjorn, I had 2 or 3, I think it was 3 guys that worked with Loki hitting on me hard. And I was like, okay. And they were all coming at me for like Loki items or whatever. So I was like, oh yeah, I can make you a Loki candle and you're trying to sleep with me. What is going on? Like there were like 3 of them in a row and I was like, what what is going on? And then there was Asbjorn, and I was like, fine. Like, fine, Loki, whatever. So Loki's been involved in that major change, and I wasn't comfortable with the change completely, like stepping outside of my comfort zone, and I'd been in a box for so long that I knew that that box needed to die, but it was one thing to know it needed to die and another thing to step out of it. But I did it, and here we are. So it's something that was overcome, but there are occasions when my Virgo rising Taurus moon are like, no. And then all the Leo underneath, because all my other chart is Leo, all my other Leo is like, no, we must do it, we must have change, we must have chaos. And then the three top ones are like, no. So I go from one extreme to the other. Sometimes I fucking love it, and then sometimes I'm like, if we have to. But yeah, so there you go.
Nice. I will be right back.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Cool.
It's just me and you.
It's just me. It's just me because no one can hear you, so it's just me.
So I can say anything. Anything at all.
We interrupt this live stream.
Oh, you're going to do a monster advert?
For a commercial.
Okay.
Magic. It's all in your head. Now available on Starry Art Supplies and Gumroad. Great book. Huge book. EA Co-Editing's got a copy of this. Written by yours truly, which goes into the formula for Magic as a whole. Great book, great book. It's also going to be available through Become a Living God soon. This is the first edition of Magic is All in Your Head, and soon, and I mean in the next month, these are going to be out of print. You're no longer going to be able to get the first edition, only the second edition through Become a Living God. So if you want a first edition, you're going to have to get it now. Gumroad.com/Torval or Starry Art Supplies, and then go to the books tab. The same also goes for this lovely piece, which is my first publication, Ramblings of an Apprentice Vidki. They will be signed by both myself and Joey, if you like. So.
And Joey, if you like. Just so you know, Mira, he took this opportunity to sell his shit on my channel.
Oh, I love it. Fucking shameless plug. Yeah.
It's not shameless. We just cut to a commercial. That was all.
I love it. I'm sad that I missed it. Fuck yeah. I'm sorry, but I'm all for using this platform to further yourself. You know what I mean? That's when people watch something and they're like, "Oh, it's an advertisement for their shit." I'm like, "Yes, it is. You're watching their free shit, and now you get an advertisement for some of their shit that ain't free." Like, there's a balance, people.
Well, yeah. I try and
that's what annoys me about like a lot of the people who say that EA is all about the money. Like EA, look, don't get me wrong, EA has a lot of books out, but the only most of them are sold out. Most of them are limited edition when they release, and so he's got maybe Become a Living God has probably less than 10 books, physical books that are on sale right now. The rest is ebooks. So there's less than 20 products, average between 20 and 30 maybe, on Become a Living God, and yet there are a ton, and I mean around about 4 to 6 years worth of newsletters and a fuck ton of YouTube videos, which are all free and extensive content, and they say that he's all about the money. And it's just like,
no, listen, okay, you've touched on something that I think is a huge thing.
Huge.
Okay. I don't get EA as you do. Like, I think he's very smart, very cunning, and I think his work ethic is beyond the par. Okay? For one thing. You have to understand, he's not just a person you're watching. He's a businessman. Why can't people admire somebody that's business savvy? You know what I mean? There's a difference between somebody trying to take you for a fucking fool and somebody trying to give you the opportunity of getting or purchasing something worth purchasing. That's what I'm going to say. I have a lot of problem with it because Joey has some amazing stuff, and it's just like I've dealt with this myself because I'm a reader and I kind of advertise myself as such on my channel, and every time I do, I lose at least one subscriber. You know what I mean? At least. And it's just like you can see it happen almost right after it uploads, and it's just like I don't understand what's so bad about letting people further themselves and their path and their journey through their businesses. If you don't like it, just go to the next video.
Yeah, it's people getting emotional because you have something that they would potentially want. It's jealous envy is what it is. See, the thing with EA is a lot of people have given him a lot of shit. Now, don't get me wrong, his methods, sure, you don't have to agree with him. Everyone does magic differently. But in terms of his business, he is the most honest businessman in the occult. And now, working for Become a Living God myself, they will not give me any money that I have earned until they know that the customer has gotten their product. This is coming from me who works at Become a Living God, doing consultations and as well as my book. EA, now I work for the company. EA has paid me for things that I've given him to contribute in his own courses and stuff. And so he is the most honest businessman I've met. And he always, chases up consultations. He's always on time. He always makes sure that the customer gets what they pay for. And with his own ebook thing is that if you're not happy within 30 days, you'll get your money back. And so I find it very, very ironic that because there are so many people in this industry who are con artists who will take your money and you will wait half a year to get even an email from them, if you're lucky to get that.
They give us all a bad fucking name.
I mean, I would, but out of professionalism, I'm not gonna. Mention his name.
No. I said they all give us a bad name.
Yep.
Please give me their name.
I would say they do. I'd say they don't, because I'm not responsible for another group's for what they do, and I won't let any other group tarnish my name but my own. I'm not a perfect businessman. I make mistakes. Sometimes I ship things out later than they should. Sometimes things happen, but I'm always honest with my customers, and that's the thing is that you have to act like a professional in this industry, and there are so many people who don't. But I find it ironic that so many people target the biggest company who are the most honest and the most professional, and it's just because of that. It's because they're big. It's because they are popular, and the people who are saying that aren't. And it's ironic.
I have a line with this. This is not about Becoming a Living God, because I have respect for them completely, but I have a line with spiritual and spiritual business. So I have a spiritual business, and when I do videos that are for a requested item, I've been trying to talk around a topic first and then show the items at the end. So even if you're not interested in whatever the physical thing is, you get a whole load of content before you get to that point, and the content is free. So people who bitch about free content, I can't help you. You're getting a load of free content. But on the flip side of this, there have been people, and these people cold call spiritual business, and this drives me insane. It's the people who leave comments underneath videos like, oh, hi, I like this video, come check out my channel, and blah, 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 and subscribe. And it's like, so you didn't bother watching the video whatsoever, you just, okay. And then there are people who drop emails and messages and like, hi, my name is blah, blah, do you want this service? Do you want a tarot reading? I'm like, if you drop that in my inbox, I will never buy a service from you, because that cold calling stuff drives me insane. That's like, do not proposition yourself upon me, because that's not what spiritual business is about. So
that's why I disable my comments.
So that box I will never buy from you, never, because I don't mind people who go out and they network and they get to know people and they form relationships, and if at some point down the line, if you need a service, they'll be like, oh well, I can help you, or oh, I can recommend someone that can help you even if I can't. I don't mind that. I don't mind like that sort of thing. But if like you're cold calling, bleh, bleh, that's happened to me a few times lately, and I'm like, nope. Out.
Not today, bitches. Not today.
There's been a few MCNs that have been trying to scam me lately. You ever get those emails? Like
I usually get them from
MCN?
Nigerian princes looking to give me $8 billion.
Nah, I've been, for some reason, I've had a couple of those scamming MCN networks trying to email me.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, automatically, you seem real shady. Like, you're a gaming network. Why the fuck you all up in this spiritual bitch? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just tell them where to go, which is fuck themselves.
Yeah.
That's where they go.
True.
So, in true Lokian style, we've completely gone off.
Well,
Yeah.
isn't that a part of
Well,
it?
I know that we're having some technical issues, so I'm. How long have we been on for? Okay, we're coming up to an hour. You're still very quiet.
Okay. Are there any questions?
There's virtually none. There's a few comments. Oh, black magic exposed. The elephant in the room is that this path attracts a lot of people that wish to use it for escapism and try to elevate themselves without doing the fucking work. Yeah, totally agree, man. Totally agree. No, there's a lot of people just say that they agree and yeah,
That they support us.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
How about this new lipstick?
It's gorgeous. I want it. It's so pretty.
I'm not a consumer. I'm all natural.
Out of the three of us, he's probably the least natural in He runs on caffeine and nicotine. I'm just telling you all. If you can hear me, which people probably can't.
I mean, you need the caffeine and the nicotine sometimes. You know what I mean?
Nicotine, caffeine, and some good fucking...
No.
Yum, yum. And I mean that about both things. Oh, that's a thing. Oh, okay. I want to say this. Mm-hmm. I have never actually met anyone that worked with Loki before y'all. And what you've been saying about most of your people that you have met, Joey, who work with Loki are kind of libido-centric. Mm-hmm. I can say for a fact that, I've always had a high libido. And that as much as I've never worked with Loki in that sense, I kind of feel that mischievousness when working with my partner. Mm-hmm. So I think that maybe that's a part of who Loki is. Like,
Loki spank your ass type of
yeah. I think he likes to have fun.
Mm-hmm. I think he likes to push the boundaries. I mean, you look at the mythology, and he's the one that has the weirdest sexual escapades. He has bisexual elements to him.
Yes.
I know that there are people who feel like he's a god that can be approached to people who are outside of the, I don't know what you would want to call it, the standard heterosexual box, maybe. And like, if you're outside of that box, then Loki is a god that people feel drawn to, and there's definitely definitely a sexual element to Loki.
I can say that as a pansexual, I completely admire that about him, and I feel very, very connected with him in that way. I also think he would be a great trans, like for trans people. I think that would be a great god to work with, because he is, to me, he is the ultimate shapeshifter. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he loves to change. He loves things that change. And that you expect it to be one thing and it's not. You know what I mean? It's like you think you're getting coal for Christmas, here's a gift. Like, he loves to turn things on their head.
I don't know why people have such a problem with getting coal for fucking Christmas. You know how fucking expensive electric is? Unappreciative cunts.
We have a few questions.
Oh, good.
Rock Salt and Bubblegum asks, can you answer anything about working with Odin? And then we have another question by Emily Stevenson of how do you all work with Loki? Well, I can pretty much answer the first one by Rock Salt and Bubblegum. Great name, by the way. Wonderful. Love it. I don't. I just don't.
I've had 2 interactions with Odin in my entire whatever. The first one was almost 2 years before I met Asbjorn, and Odin showed up and Morrigan was in my room, and I was like, what on earth is going on? And he looked at me and he said, if I send you a warrior, will you have his back? And I thought it was about someone else at the time, but I was like, okay. And then that didn't seem to come to anything until years later. And then I was like, oh. And there were more synchronicities that made me realize that's what was going on. And back had a strong reference to it and things. And then he was in the underworld when I did one of my ancestor works, because I had said, now it could also have been Loki, but I feel like it was Odin. Because at first I was like, is that? And I had said, oh, there's no men in my ancestor cave. Why are there no like male energies in my ancestor space? It's weird. And then the next time I went in there, there was the Wanderer leading me in with one eye, and he turned and he was like a silver-haired fox and the full beard, and I was like, okay. Like, and he just had my hand and was leading me through, and that's the entirety of my experiences, other than doing a set for Odin. And Odin was it was all about shaping with him. It was all about things that are shaped and the way things are shaped, and the patterns of magic and things. So there you go. Your turn. You know more about this than me and Mira.
God, how many hours do you want to be on this podcast for? Working with Odin? Don't. He's a dick. He'll fuck your life up. I tell you what, my Eye of Odin ritual. Eye of Odin. Working with Odin is like being slapped in the face and kicked in the balls and asking for more. Don't get me wrong, there's a father element to it, but he'll fuck your life up. Same as Loki. Just that Loki's honest about it.
Which you wouldn't expect from Loki.
Well, see, Loki will be honest. He doesn't in denial that he'll fuck your shit up. Odin will try and hide around it. This is the thing, is that regardless of which Norse god you're going to work with, they're going to fuck up your life. Rely on yourself. Fuck Odin. Fuck Loki. Work with you. Be the god.
And I'll disagree. Work with Loki and get your shit fucked up. It's totally fun. Do it. Do it. It's awesome.
But don't get me wrong, it's cool working with entities and stuff, but people want to work so much with everything out there that they forget to work with this. And that is much more important. People want to go outside, they don't want to go inside. That's
where he leads me. He always leads it back in here. Every time. He's like the shadow working king. He is, for me, he is, like, I worked with him all retrograde, and it was basically, he turned me into a conduit of shadow reflection. Mm-hmm. And it was fucking awful, and I loved and hated every second. Mm. It completely, listen, I realized I wasn't as woke as I thought. I was a judgmental little bitch. And I found out some things about myself and my ego that if I want to keep going on this path, I'm going to have to fucking rearrange and change and transform. And it was like a concert of different things I had to work with. Oh, that was so if you want to have your shit fucked up because you need it, work with Loki. That's all I gotta say. He is I don't know, it's kind of a masochistic style of relationship I have with him. I love every second of it. I guess I'm just fucking weird.
There you go.
And then Emily Stevenson says, how do you all work with Loki? And I'm sure all of our styles are very different.
With great difficulty.
I put salt around the bed to make sure it's Asbjorn coming into my bed and not Loki.
No.
We're talking about I am Loki. To be fair, someone has said I am the incarnation of Loki, so.
Oh,
And Odin.
Oh.
Fuck, maybe I'm both. No, I'm the incarnation of fabulousness.
No.
Hashtag woke as fuck.
Well, I conduit. I guess if people can hear me, I'm trying to get closer. Hang on.
Your mic is fucked. It ain't gonna make a difference.
Just scream at us. Scream at us like you hate us.
I don't scream when I hate. I get very quiet when I hate.
Then scream at us like you really like us.
Oh. I'm not sure that the internet's ready for that. Different channel.
Shout out to Black Magic Exposed. Love you, dude.
We're talking about me screaming and enjoying things, and you're talking about loving some guy. I think this took a very bad turn for me.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Asbjorn, how do you work with Loki?
I stopped that a while ago. I don't work with Loki. Loki works with me. After that ritual, I stopped calling on Loki. I stopped asking him for shit. He just turns up.
Yes.
That's no fucking
happens.
joke.
Yeah.
No fucking joke.
Yeah.
You're just like, surprise!
Mm-hmm.
No, to give some people advice. I mean, if you truly want to work with Loki, just be aware that working with any entity is gonna create change, and so be ready for it. And yeah, that sounds like a pretty something that everyone should know. Trust me, they don't. They don't know that you need to be ready for that change, and you're never gonna be ready for that change. That's a second lesson. If you want to work with Loki, you need to speak out, and whichever ritual that you think it's gonna work, do the exact opposite of that. Because anything that you expect is going to be wrong. Period. Simple.
Simples. So I conduit, and I don't know how many people do this, but it's kind of like it started off like meditation. I can do it just like that now because I'm so used to it, though. I don't have to be in full-blown meditation where I just follow the thread. And I can follow the thread to specific gods, and I kind of read around to start with if I don't know the energy, but it's unlikely at this point that I don't know the energy. But if someone asks for a random god that I have not... What are you doing?
Someone asked what I'm vaping.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
He's vaping Ocean Lime Miami Vice vape.
No, I'm not. Lemon 11, thank you very much. Tastes like a lemon donut.
Somebody's getting spanked later. Anyway, so I pull on the thread, and if I don't know the god, if it's a random god that I've not heard much about, I'll go do some research. I get a feeling for the flavor, for the lore, and then I pull on that energy. And it's very difficult to explain, but it's basically like the great energetic ecosystem in my mind, and then I go and I pull and I reach out and I kind of draw on any given energy. And dark gods and goddesses are easier for me anyway, because that's where I naturally reside. It's easier for me, for example, to find the dark side of Isis than it is to find the lighter side of Isis. So it's easier for me to find a Set than it is for me to find the lighter side of Isis, and it's easier for me to say find Hades than it is Gaia. So it's just how it naturally is. But yeah, so I just go seeking on an energetic basis and see what images come to me and what messages come to me and what dreams I get sometimes. Dreams are kind of like the last resort, but it tends to be proactive meditation, kind of. How about you, Mira?
The way I work with Loki is an ever-changing, ever-evolving, lovely shitstorm that I just enjoy so much. I am a little masochistic, so it could be the fact of I'm just a masochist, just wanting more. But I love and adore misunderstood, tragic characters.
Mm-hmm.
It is a part of me that's been with me all my life.
Oh, yeah.
And I often enjoy the misunderstood, quote-unquote, villains that I don't see as villains, but as anti-heroes that don't give a shit about what people think.
Like Asper Interval?
I gotta say, I only recently found you through Joey, and I'm really enjoying your channel. Like, no joke. I know that, like, the first time we met in a chat, I said a thing that might have triggered you, because I didn't understand what y'all were talking about.
What triggered me?
I said something along the lines of, "Oh man, you wouldn't believe this. I saw this one girl trying to say she was the embodiment of Sekhmet and that she was the reincarnation of her on Earth, and ha 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 ha, so funny. It made me laugh so hard. How ridiculous." And then you were like, "Oh, you obviously have no idea who I am." And I was just like, "Oh, great first impression, Mira. Great. Good one."
No, you're good. I just have a big fuck you attitude. But no, that shit doesn't trigger me. I'm exactly the same. I see people like that and I laugh.
Because with all respect, I just can't think of myself as a living god. I think I'm a worshiper rather than
the perspective, though. It's not seeing yourself as a god incarnate. It's not me thinking that I am the literal Odin.
Exactly. After I watched
self-divinity and taking it out.
After I went to your channel after that chat, because that was the first time I'd seen you, I watched some of your shows and I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. I can't really vibe with it, but it makes a lot of sense logically. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I just go middleman and say that we can be a spark of divinity as well as human in the same breath. I walk down the middle road.
Fuck being human. It's too mainstream. It's too basic.
But I think that my main practice with Loki is a lot of journeying. It's also a lot of because I'm a traveler at heart. I go without meaning to go, and I go when I want to go, and I get pulled places by other entities. It's a lot of journeying, and it's a lot of messages. Since I'm a medium, that's just how I naturally learn.
It's a lot of waking up in the morning, eating a coffee, and realizing you're out of coffee.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of trickery, like a fuck ton. I told this to Chris. I'm gonna tell you all. This is my clock story. Are y'all ready? Mm-hmm. The first item that I ever got that was a symbol of Loki for my home was a Loki clock. Like, it was a clock that was kind of created from one of those vinyl records in the shape of Loki. And this clock is never right, okay? First, it was never right, and then there's been times where I'm like, we're not gonna be late. That clock is never right. It's fine. We have time. That's the times where it's fucking right and I get late. So every time, you don't know when this clock is gonna be right, when it's gonna be wrong. It's just off most of the time, but there are some times where it's like, ha ha ha, I fucked you over. You don't know me. And it was
this is the pinnacle of working with Loki. Whether you think you're right or you're wrong, you're wrong.
You're wrong. And now almost every single time I see a clock that's not like a digital one connected to a phone or a laptop, they're wrong. They're always wrong. There's not a time where I can even get my microwave to stay on clock mode. It just won't work. He is very, you don't understand me, so I'm going to make you not understand another thing, which is time. Haha, bitch.
Well, time's a human illusion to control the world around us.
Exactly.
Oh god, here we go.
No, I love it, yes.
If we weren't this off fucking topic already, this is going to derail it.
Well,
We might as well call this, when you rename this, you might as well call it Train Wreck Conversation.
I love it.
That conversation's fine.
Great.
So that's very Lokian to me, though. Like, this is what you are doing in your human mind to control the world around you. Stop it. Like, embrace the chaos. Don't be on time. There is no time. Time is an illusion.
Very fucking true. I don't know. I just love it. I love it.
Are there any more questions before we round up for the day?
I don't think that's it. I think we've run through most of them, unless there's any new ones. Nah, just comments.
Do you want to read some comments before we finish up?
I can do. Probably not that much.
Put your Scottish voice on.
I'm sorry.
It's a weed.
Assume nothing. The only time is the only real. Okay, I'm not even gonna try and fucking. Yes, you're right. Assume nothing.
That is not reading a comment, as beyond.
Yeah, most of it's just people saying names.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
I enjoyed this. This was
This
fun.
is cool. We will fix the mic, and I'll ask Mira to come back on, and we'll talk about some dark goddesses, like maybe next week or the week after or something, when technology's working again. So I'm sorry if you guys can't hear me very well. I tried. I can't yell very easily. It's against like my natural state of being.
I can literally hear you from the other room.
You can. People can't on the other.
Oh no! You know what this is? This is a bit of karmic justice for you telling me that I talk loud. Huh.
Oh.
Payback's a bitch, isn't it?
Oh, you'll find out.
Just gotta be a piece of paper and hold up a help sign while you're talking. Anyway.
So just thank you to both Asbjorn, who had no choice because he lives with me and puts up with me, and
King.
to Mira.
King.
To King Booter Torval for joining.
I'm gonna do it. King Asbjorn Boote Torval.
You're gonna thank yourself as well.
I want to thank Asbjorn. No. This is what happens when you. This is what happens when I get too much stuff in my head at once.
Do you want to pat yourself on the shoulder? We good? You done?
Just give you a little. Mwah.
Oh, don't, because he will.
Oh, no, I need a mirror for that.
And thank you to Mira the Random Witch for coming and talking to us today about Loki and all things Lokian. I'm sorry to you guys if you couldn't hear me very well. I tried. I'm like against the iPad as close as I can get, yelling into it like a crazy person. Anyone outside who can see in through the window is seeing me kneeling up against an iPad going, as it says. Goodness knows what I look like to the neighbors. But thank you both for joining us. Asbjorn will need to press the off live button in a minute. Pardon?
That means I get the last word, doesn't it?
Don't you always?
Well, people, you know where I buy my books?
Oh, God.
I am King Asbjorn Boote Torval. What do we say to Dogma? We say, fuck Dogma. And until next time,
You're really going to finish it?
stay true.
Oh, my God.
And stay awesome.